ba ka tsoron hannatar da kayan mutane kuma ba ka tsoron fada.
Even though the Nigerian government has kick-started attempts to revisit the grazing routes, experts say this is not the long-lasting solution that is needed.
The era of open grazing, in my honest opinion, is over. Yes, as a temporary measure and to allow for a de-escalation of the current situation that we're in, there may be a need to allow some form of movement, but that movement should be generated towards encouraging ranching and encouraging some more other sophisticated type of livestock rearing.
Unless when this is modernized, this problem of movement from one place to the other, or maybe to get sufficient either meat or milk and cater for the country is being modernized, I don't think we can achieve this our target. One of the problems, as I told you earlier, is that those people that are handling the animals refuse to go to school. They must be educated before they have that thinking that you are saying. Those people that are illiterate, they are all what they knew nothing about apart from the cattle. If you want them to improve what they are doing, how are you going to incorporate that knowledge into their own thinking? It's very difficult. And another problem to my own seeing is that government also is not paying much attention to the cattle rearers. You can hear programs, fertilizer, and what again?
Seed.
Most of the government programs are targeted towards crop cultivation. You can hardly come across any program that is targeted towards the cattle rearers. You can even hear about the states that are banning open grazing.
Mu masu karamin karfi ne, abinda muke da shi ga daren mun tattara mun je mun zubar a jeji, domin wannan in ya fito a shi da mu samu abin da mu ci mu taimaka yan uwa. Mu marayu ne to amma babu, an riga an cinye yanzu haka nan haka sidda yanzu haka nan da rigar da samu a cikin kwari.
Even though it is considered that we have a so-called disability, we really are able persons with different abilities.
For society and development to be included of persons with disabilities, we need to have equal access to education and to knowledge and information. Yet, out of millions of publications each year, fewer than 5% are made available in accessible formats for visually impaired persons. In developing countries, an even smaller percentage of publications are available in accessible formats. The Marrakesh Treaty, as it is called, will greatly expand the availability of artistic and literary works in accessible forms, such as Braille, large print text, and audiobooks. This can make a real difference in the lives of the world's more than 300 million visually impaired persons.
At the end of the day, we must come together and make however and where we are in the world be a place of unification, because me being blind visually doesn't mean that I have to be blind spiritually. And someone being sighted doesn't mean that they should be blind of those things in the world that we need to fix. We have to have inclusion.
Let us not become handicapped again, blind to the issues and the problems of those in need.
virus de planter des arbres. Ça me plaît beaucoup. Ici, c'était un dépotoir d'ordures ménagères. Du fait que les villageois ne savaient pas qu'est-ce que c'est que l'importance de la forêt, ils prenaient leurs ordures et les déposaient. En ce moment, je leur ai sensibilisé de leur dire que l'arbre doit vivre comme nous, donc il ne faut pas salir l'arbre. C'est ce que nous a donné l'impact positif pour avoir ici un périmètre pour cultiver. Le 2 mai 2005, on a allé voir les eaux et forêts qui nous ont attribué 500 mètres carrés. On a initié, intégré les femmes dans un AGR. Et avec ça, on a choisi le maraîchage. On était à 3 hectares, mais on ne cultive pas sous la haute tension. Et on nous a déguerpi et on est à 2 hectares.
Si on fait travailler ces femmes dans cette forêt, c'est pour qu'elles prennent également soin de cette forêt. Non seulement ça permet de fertiliser les sols, mais ça permet également de les autonomiser économiquement à travers la vente de fruits.
Tous les arbres fruitiers que vous voyez, c'est nous qui l'avons planté. Chaque citronnier, on y récoltait plus de 60 kilos.
Merci beaucoup. Que ce sont des dames très dynamiques, des dames très braves, qui subissent de plein fouet les effets des changements climatiques. Nous, on vient en rescousse pour informer, pour sensibiliser sur des solutions, la promotion de bonnes pratiques. Pour les cas pires, c'est également l'apparition de nouveaux parasites. Et ça, on le vit ici au quotidien et un peu partout au Sénégal. Ça participe également à la dégradation des sols. Justement, c'est la raison pour laquelle nous, on essaye de trouver comme solution prioritaire aujourd'hui le reboisement massif dans les périmètres maraîchers avec des espèces qui sont répulseurs aussi.
Notre projet d'avenir, si les femmes l'acceptent, on veut faire un projet de pépinière dans les alvéoles pour alléger les travaux.
La femme est à l'image de la terre. Ce sont des vrais écoféministes qui sont là, qui sont engagés pour la protection et la préservation de l'environnement.
La forêt, c'est nous et nous, c'est la forêt.
Hello and welcome to the newsroom. I am Victoria Konde and these are the headlines you're tracking at the moment. Now, the Lagos state government has identified Ikeja, Lagos Island and Lekki as the 3 areas with the highest incidence of crime within the state. This was disclosed by the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice Lawal Pedro during the ministerial press briefing held in Alausa, Ikeja to mark the 2nd year of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu's 2nd term in office. Citing data from the Lagos State Criminal Information System, Pedro noted a worrying concentration of criminal activity in the state's commercial and residential hubs. Still in Lagos, the state government has clarified that the ban on single-use plastics (SUPs), which takes effect on the 1st of July 2025, does not cover pure water sachets, PET bottles, or nylon carrier bags thicker than 40 microns. This was disclosed in a statement by the Lagos Commissioner of Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab. It followed what the government described as deliberate viral misinterpretations, suggesting the ban applied to all categories of SUPs. Now, as part of the 1.78 trillion naira proposed 2025 budget of the Federal Capital Territory has been penciled down for the completion of 14 ongoing road constructions located in the city center and satellite towns across the capital city. FCT Minister Nyesom Wike disclosed this in Abuja during his 2025 budget defense before the Joint Committee of the Senate and House of Representatives Committee on the FCT on Wednesday. Wike said out of the 1.78 trillion naira, 1.28 trillion was earmarked for capital projects, representing 72.3%, while 494.1 billion naira was set aside as recurrent expenditure, representing 27.7%. And now, Ishaq Oleyede, the Registrar of the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board (JAMB), says he considered resigning after the technical error that marred the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination (UTME). He disclosed this when he met with the chief external examiners, civil society organizations, and tertiary school stakeholders on Wednesday in Abuja. He addressed calls for his resignation from critics who purported an ethnic conspiracy and sabotage in the UTME crisis. In the world of business, Nigeria spent about $2.01 billion on external debt servicing between January and April 2025, marking a 50% increase compared to the $1.33 billion recorded during the same period in 2024. This is according to the latest international payments data published by the Central Bank of Nigeria on its website. The data showed the debt servicing alone accounted for 77.1% of Nigeria's total international payments within the 4 months, a sharp rise from the 64.5% share recorded in the same period of 2024. On the global scene, a major accident occurred during the launch of a new North Korean warship on Wednesday, prompting leader Kim Jong-un to denounce the mishap as a criminal act driven by carelessness and irresponsibility. Parts of the 5,000-ton destroyer's bottom were crushed, tipping the vessel off balance, according to reports. Kim, who was present at the launch, has ordered the ship be restored before a key party meeting in June, and for those involved in designing the ship to be held responsible for the incident, which he called severely damaged the dignity and pride of the nation in an instant. And finally on sports, world record holder in the women's 100-meter hurdle, Tobi Amusan, will continue her 2025 outdoor season on Sunday as she lines up for the 4th leg of the Wanda Diamond League in Rabat, Morocco, having been officially listed among the event's entries. The 28-year-old, initially set to compete at the World Athletics Relays in China before Nigeria's withdrawal, will now make her second Diamond League appearance after placing 4th in China in April.
da kamar ina da tare da waya ta ma za ku ga hamada saboda ni na ɗauka a waya
kamar yanzu kamar a nan yana cikin bidiyo na gargajiya ko ka tona hamada ko
gurin kiwon ma babu gonakan kan babu ma maganar gonakai duk inda muke da gonakai gurin sahara ya ce gurin kiwo sahara ya ce kuma taku da kanka ma kana tafiya wallahi kana sai ka yi ni kana tafiya wani gangare ka shiga ko ka dan ka sai ya tudu da ba kana tona ma ba za ka kama shi karuwa yake ma karuwa ba an ce akwai ma'aikatan ma
Farmers and herders in Nigeria used to enjoy relative peace as they interacted with each other. That is no longer the case. It is estimated that between 2016 and 2018, over 3,600 lives were lost to the crisis between the two groups. In the first half of 2018, about 300,000 people became displaced for the same reason. Northwestern and North Central Nigeria have notably been the heart of this violence. But the crisis is spreading fast to other parts of the country, including the South. Several factors have been identified for the wave of bloodshed. Rapidly increasing population figures, rapidly dwindling resources, which both groups rely on. Also, the pattern of migration of the traditionally nomadic Fulani cattle rearers has been changing. This is due to rising insecurity, improvements in veterinary medicine, hostility from locals and state governments, and a bunch of environmental factors including climate change, desertification, loss of vegetation, and water scarcity. In Yobe, northeast Nigeria, the relationship between the scarcity of natural resources and increased violence is obvious. From the encroachment of the Sahara Desert to the shrinking of the Hadija Nguru wetlands.
ina magana akan yanayin mutuwar dabbobinmu lokacin yunwa. Misali, idan rani ya ja lokaci kafin faduwar damuna, duk da faduwar damuna, ciyawa ta kan yanke.
Wato matsalar da muke samu na ita kwararwa hamada mu dai faru lokacin gama in particular daga Fulani gabar da nan kenan da muke zo ne har zuwa Gumsi sai su faru lokacin gama kuma jajin bayan da dai abubuwa da kuke gani a nan yanzu a ƙasa ta kusa kan dai hamada ta riga ta cika cikin lokacin gama ta yi nisa ta ci sosai ba mu san dai kuma abin da zai biyo baya ba amma bangaren gwamnati dai.
The challenge of climate change and the consequences of climate change on the environment, especially when you look closely at environmental degradation and the competition for resources, in this instance specifically for land and water, has in several instances generated conflict. There is virtually no part of the northwest, not to an extent north central, and then northeast that you go to that you don't see receding water bodies, and how this is having a huge impact on the socio-economic well-being of and livelihoods of the people in those communities. And so the likelihood of migration from the core northern states into some parts of southern Nigeria is something that is real.
Zakari, a village in Yusufari, northern Yobe State, lies on the fringes of the Sahara Desert. About 50 years ago, it was like any other arid northeast Nigerian community, with decent vegetation, a smooth road network, sun-baked mud buildings, and a great many people who had lived there for generations. Now it is just miles and miles of sand dunes. Desert encroachment has pushed out the majority of the residents, many of them herders. Malam Musa is one of many herders in Gaidam who have now resettled in the Song area of Adamawa.
Sani wanda ya yi sanadiyan barin su yankin nan?
Akwai.
Na je kai kaman gidaje na ko rugaje na ko mutane nawa za ka gaba kayyana?
Kai kamar 100.
Wato wanda suka bar nan wajen.
Kaɗan ɗin.
A sanadiyan wannan. To ya kuke fama da baki?
Around January, February, you hardly see anything in the place that an animal will browse or take as a food. And there's no water even to drink. So this is one of the factors that will make them to come southwards. If they move southwards for water and for grazing the even the dry grasses. Definitely the desert encroachment is one of the factors that is concentrating the animal into a place and making the clashes between farmers and herders more frequent. More often. Had it been that in the area that is encroached by desert, there is grasses and water for them to, they may not be there. They don't have to move. But now it's necessary that they must come southward during as the dry season is approaching. They must come southward in search of little pasture and drinking water. While if during the rainy season approach, they go north. Since there may be water and little grasses for them to graze.
The problem with desert encroachment is not going to stop anytime soon. According to one estimate, the sand dunes shift towards the south at a rate of 30 hectares each year, putting 11 states in northern Nigeria at risk of desertification. More cattle rearers in these places are moving elsewhere due to the combination of factors: insecurity, drought, desertification, and the need for water.
To shi ne makayayan da suka zo ga lamirin mu anan mun yi da mu da su a kan mu kore su. Muka yi mu kore su abun ya gagare mu muka gaya wa lawanin mu shi ma ya yi dan abun da bakin kokarin sa abun ya gagari mun gaya wa hakimi ma duk kowa ya san da baki kuma bakin nan ba daga wani guri suke ba daga jiga.
The migration of herders to new places tends to lead to clashes or aggravate existing conflicts because of competition over insufficient land and water resources.
Ina tafiya suna tare ni da kibiya suna jifa na ni ina so in tafi gurin yaran can su kuma suna gefen nan gefen kudu haka su yaran suna gabar ni ina tafiya gun su gabar su kuma suna gefe na
yaran da suke aikin
shinkafa
kai kana so ka iso wajen su
su kuma wannan
suna sai suka zargu
a cikin gona
sai suka zargu suka fara harbi
sai suka kama harbi suna harbi na suna jifa ni ban sani ba ma ni da na gani haka dai ina gani suna yin haka dai da abin su suna jifa amma kibiyan bai zo ya same ni ba ban gani ba ma ashe wai su harbi suke sai na fasa tafiya gun yara sai na tafi gun yara fulani din to ina tafiya ɗayan yana yin harbin sa ashe kibiyarsa ya ƙare da ya gani na kusa zuwa gunsa sai dan uwansa sai ya jefa masa addansa. Shi wani yana da kibiya shi zai gudu kenan. Sai ya jefa wannan da ba zai gudu ba, sai ya jefa masa adda. Kawai yaron nan kawai sai ya tafi da gudu. Sai ya fita da gudu ya zo ya same ni ya doka mu.
Adda?
Da itace a hannuna na ɗauka na masu buge shinkafa. Ya yanke itacen. Kuma ya yanke hannu. Hannun yanzu haka babu, yanzu fakin ne aka ce za a yi, ba zai zama hannu ba.
Wato shi ne wannan kibiya ɗan kibiyan kenan?
Shi lokacin da ya tsare da adda na faɗi.
Kamar shekara 5 a bangaren noma din gaskiya ba mu da matsala da su. Amma daga shekara 2 zuwa 3 ɗin abubuwan suka ƙara lalacewa.
Kuma karanci ruwa shi ya kawo inda ruwan ya zo an zuba da shinkafa. Wani guri ya hau wani guri bai hau ba. To dalilin wannan su ne dama wanda Fulani suka samu rashin ruwan shi ya kawo su. Suka shiga ka zauna kuma abinda sauran shinkafan masu ma rashin kiyawa da miyadin suka shiga shinkawa mutane suna ci. An hana su abin muhimmi da ya fi karfi mu gaskiya mu muna maguru.
In Nguru, about 100 kilometers west of Yusufari, is a section of the Hadija Nguru wetlands. For many years, the waterlogged fields and rivers in the area have sustained the livelihoods of millions of farmers, herders, and fishermen. But the water is starting to recede. Harvests, especially for rice farmers, have dropped significantly in the past year. They are also facing more problems from herders, whose cattle graze on the farms closer to town before harvest is done.
Gaskiya wannan da inda dai da ruwan dai hakan duk ba za ta faru da yawa ba. Da rashin ruwan ma kuma da ta'adin da Fulani ne duk dai ba wanda za a ce ba.
Kowa ya taka rawa ciki.
Gaskiya ne.
Yanzu a ganin ka me kake gani ya kamata a yi wanda zai iya magance wannan abun? Ita buɗewar ne ko kuma
an da an buɗe ruwa din za a iya samun saukin kan abin. Hanyar ruwa idan ta riga ta gyaru zaman lafiya tsakanin tunda daɗin ruwa yana zama ba wani matsala tsakanin da can asali din da ruwa yana zaune muna zaune da ruwa daga baya kuma ruwan ya yi karanci zuwa yanzu shekara kamar 12 da akwai ruwa baya amma zuwa yanzu
sosai ba sa ɗaukan sa kamar wani muhimmanci.
Gona biyu haka aka ci kowanne a baya ina samun 30 gona biyu ina samun 60 babu ɗaya kwano ɗaya ban samu kuma na yi yunkuri na ji na gaya ciyama.
To our own understanding, the major problems is the absence of coming of the water. That are the reason why we fail to get what we have.
Lack of water.
They are all affected in the land. We have only source of water. If that source bring us water, the whole area farming well and organized. And then if there is no water from that only center we have it, we all lost. And what we understand now, the farmers at Onguru, they have already failed. 70% of our farmers have nothing to farm.
90%.
Have 20% get only rice that have been eaten in their house. And then 10% are those that are gain something from the farming. And even me, I've tried to farm more than 1,000 to 2,000 rice. And my chairman more than 20,000. And the secretary will do more than 25,000 because of he's richer than us. But now, even I don't have even 10 bucks. I pay me more than 1,000 and I don't have even 10 bucks.
Ok, kana ka dauka
babu sun cinye shanu sun cinye shine yayi mu ruwa bai shiga ba.
Some footprints of the cows or plants that they've eaten.
Akwai da zamu iya ganin zamu iya daukan hoton
da can mutu a cikin shi.
To a kada mu na mu kada na ba sai ya ga
gaba da wannan.
The major problem is lack of water. And then the second problem is the coming of the Fulani from somewhere else. And then that Fulani comes because of the absence of water.
Three factors have been identified for the water problem: the proliferation of the invasive taifa grass, the construction of dams along water roads supplying the wetlands, such as the Tiga Dam in Kano, and droughts. One other reason for the increased clashes between farmers and herders in Nigeria is the encroachment of grazing roads, reserved for use by pastoralists, by northern lawmakers during the First Republic. These grazing roads and reserves are now being converted into farmlands and other structures. This makes it difficult for herders to move about freely without trespassing, and has repeatedly been used as an excuse.
Burtali nan da abin da ya kama daga nan har zuwa Sudan akwai burtali, amma su manoma duk sun je sun kakkare sun je sun yi shuki da sauransu. Shi yasa su Fulani kai musu magana da wannan suke laɓewa. An kashe burtali da sauransu. Kuma hakikanin gaskiya yawancin tashin hankali da muke samu a nan akan harkar manoma da makiyaya yawanci duka ba makiya namu na nan bane, daga wani guri ne suke zuwa. Suka zo kuma ba sa tsoron hannatar da kayan mutane, kuma ba sa tsoron fada.
Even though the Nigerian government has kick-started attempts to revisit the grazing roads, experts say this is not the long-lasting solution that is needed.
The era of open grazing, in my honest opinion, is over. Yes, as a temporary measure and to allow for a de-escalation of the current situation that we're in, there may be a need to allow some form of movement, but that movement should be generated towards encouraging ranching and encouraging some more other sophisticated type of livestock rearing.
Unless when this is modernized, this problem of movement from one place to the other, or maybe to get sufficient either meat or milk that cater for the country is being modernized, I don't think we can achieve this our target. One of the problems, as I told you earlier, is that those people that are handling the animals refuse to go to school. They must be educated before they have that thinking that you are saying. Those people that are illiterate, they are all what they knew nothing about apart from the cattle. If you want them to improve what they are doing, how are you going to incorporate that knowledge into their own thinking? It's very difficult. And another problem to my own seeing is that government also is not paying much attention to the cattle rearers. You can hear programs, fertilizer, and what again?
Seed.
Most of the government programs are targeted towards crop cultivation. You can hardly come across any program that is targeted toward the cattle rearers. You can even hear about the states that are banning open grazing.
mu masu karamin karfi ne abinda muke da shi ga daren mun tattara mun je mun zubar a jeji domin wannan in ya fito a shi da mu samu abin da mu ci mu ce muka yan uwa mu marayu ne to amma babu an riga an cinye yanzu haka nan haka sidda yanzu haka nan da rigar da ya samu a cikin kwari
It's been 42 years now since St. Ambrose's Catholic Secondary School was established by the Catholic Church before it was taken over by the government. Several students have passed through the four walls of the school, just as several administrative staff have come and gone. But the one thing that has remained largely unchanged is the infrastructure and teaching facilities in the school. Year by year, things got worse. Classroom buildings began giving way. The classrooms themselves became inconducive for both teaching and learning. Things were literally in an abject state.
We have been managing teaching even when the rain is falling, the rain will be falling inside the classroom. We cannot abandon teaching. At times we mass students together when there is no conducive classroom. During the tenure of the past principal, Mr. Ogunbadejo Fola. So when he came to this school, he discovered that things will not be going on like this. So many classrooms are leaking, some roofs have even off, some buildings are collapsed. The parents are not able to do anything concerning it. So we be folding and then every year, the roofing have been taking away a lot of money. So he now decided to go spiritual by calling upon God. So every Thursday of every month, we used to gather together, spending 30 minutes, calling upon God. So we look for the names of some old students. We got the name from one of the old students called KK. We wrote their name on the pieces of paper. During the prayer time, we raised the name up. God to compel them to come.
Either by divine intervention or mere coincidence, something happened. One of the old students of the school decided to pay a visit. Multiple award-winning journalist Deji Bademosi graduated from the school 26 years ago as the senior prefect of the 1994 set.
I went there to do a story on the dilapidated state of the school. And there's a project we're actually doing, a project that I'm actually doing, known as Track Nigeria, being supported by the MacArthur Foundation. So the whole idea for me initially was to go there and highlight the dilapidated state of the school so that I could call the attention of the government to the situation there and to see if the government could at least come in there to help address the infrastructural problem there. But you know, when I got there, and because that's the school I actually attended myself, I was touched. And you know, I just felt rather than just tell the story and wait for the government to do something, that at least I could do something to help. I was really touched, and I decided, well, that at least we could do some renovation. So the whole idea was, okay, go there, renovate, and that was how it started.
An engineer was contracted to commence work on the site, but little did they know that the structure required more than the planned renovation due to the severity of the damage.
When I got there, all the foundation was already above the ground level, meaning that you can even be seeing the foundation footing already outside exposed, which anything can happen. The building can collapse at any time. After opening the space for the column and the second day, you know, the building is weak already, even with the exposure of the foundation, I said. So one side of the classroom gave way immediately.
the only thing we could do to salvage the situation was to pull down the entire building and, build a new one. And for me, that was something really huge. It was not something that I had actually planned for, considering the cost implication. So I summoned courage and I said, you know what, okay, you guys go ahead, pull the building down, we'll put up a new building.
It was a tough decision, but certainly worth it. The reconstruction officially kicked off in August 2019 under the direct supervision of one of the alumni of the school.
We left here like 26 years ago, and there was no any kind of maintenance since we left. So I supervised the building right from the scratch to where it is today, all to the glory of God.
As the new building started to take shape, it was hard to ignore the remaining dilapidated blocks of classrooms and abandon them to decay.
As one building was getting completed, I looked at the situation again and I felt, well, we can do another one. So I said, you know what, I looked at my pulse and I said, well, maybe I could just try the second one. And then the second one came down, the old building now came down, and we started work on the second one. And then the third one as well, one of the old students there came to me and said, look, supposing I provide blocks for the foundation, and then, build it up to lintel level, would you mind to just take it over from there? And I was like, okay, let's see how it goes. Because I knew it was going to cost a lot of money, but, that was how the third building started. Then there was no plan to have a toilet. The school had no toilet. But then I felt, look, it wouldn't be nice at all to have these new buildings. You have the students there, and then they have no place to go ease themselves, and they have to make use of the bush. Again, I summoned courage, and I said, okay, you know what, let's put up a toilet facility there. And that was how the toilet facility came up. So right there now we have 10 toilets. I then thought, if you have a toilet, how then do you get water to service the toilet? And the school has no borehole. The school has a well that dries up during the dry season. And then, again, not planned for initially. Remember, I started by saying we wanted to do just one building. Not planned for. So I said, okay, let's get the borehole.
After the borehole, then came the landscaping and flooring of the school. As the school continued to get a facelift, it was almost unbelievable for staff and students who watched their wish become a reality.
It's a thing of joy to me. But on a daily basis, when I come to school, I have to look down and see the buildings, which is not common, it's one in town. I was made to know that there is no school that is having this type of building. No school. Is it the restroom? Is it the classroom? Is it the offices? Is it the type of furniture there? It is second to none, I must confess, and I'm very happy.